everyone, it's Cass. Welcome back to my channel, What Cass Read. No, you're not going to see my face today because I actually haven't done my hair at all. But we are here to do a bookshelf tour. So I'm going to split this up into two different parts because I have two bookshelves that look exactly like this from IKEA. They're just those like cube bookshelves. And as you can see, like I literally stack them to the brim. They're double, triple stacked sometimes. A lot of times when I do book hauls, some people ask me, how is it that you fit all of your books on your shelves? And that's my secret. I just double stack them. So here we are today. We're going to start with this first section. And as soon as I'm done with this one, please stay tuned for Bookshelf Tour Part 2. So here we go. The Queens of Innis Lear by Tessa Grattan. Fury Born by Claire Legrand. Foundry Side by Robert Jackson Bennett. The City of Brass written by S.A. Chakraborty. The Kingdom of Copper written by S.A. Chakraborty. Scythe written by Neil Shusterman. Thunderhead written by Neil Shusterman. Sawkill Girls written by Claire Legrand. Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell written by Susanna Clark. Fall of Giants written by Ken Follett. Winter of the World written by Ken Follett. Edge of Eternity written by Ken Follett. This is the final book of the Century Trilogy. The first one of my Aragon, The Inheritance Cycle, Aragon written by Christopher Paolini. Eldest, Book 2 in the Inheritance Cycle. Brissinger, Book 3 in the Inheritance Cycle. And Inheritance, the fourth and final book in the Inheritance Cycle. Okay, on to the next cube. Sorry about the little glare right there. It's the window that I usually film in front of. We have The Vagrant, written by Peter Newman. The Fifth Season, written by N.K. Jemisin. The Black Prism, written by Brent Weeks, book number 1 of the Lightbringer series. The Blinding Knife, written by Brent Weeks. And The Broken Eye, this is book number 3 of the Lightbringer series. The Lies of Locke Lamora, written by Scott Lynch. Red Seas Under Red Skies, written by Scott Lynch. And The Republic of Thieves, book number 3 of the Gentleman Bastard sequence. One of the books I had smushed on top, this is Old Man's War, written by John Scalzi. This is Born, written by Jeff Vandermeer. The Scottish Prisoner, written by Diana Gabaldon. One of my favorite collectible books. This is the Beatrix Potter Treasury. So it's all the original and authorized editions of the stories of Peter Rabbit, Benjamin Bunny, etc. Yeah, I love this book. This is an older edition of Robin Hood that I got from my grandparents forever ago. I couldn't even tell you when I got it. I was definitely like elementary age. The spine is completely wore off. So January 22nd, 1994. This was my brother's book, and then he ended up giving it to me from Grandpa and Granny. Then we have this illustrated edition of The Wizard of Oz. January 17th, 1994. That's my birthday. Love Grandpa and Granny. And the final one from my grandparents on this shelf, Favorite Fairy Tales. Whenever I talk about my grandfather who got me into reading, that's the grandfather who signed these books. He passed away 10 years ago, so I'm very happy to have these still in my collection. Merry Christmas, 1993. Seven Stones to Stand or Fall, the short story collection of Outlander fiction written by Diana Gabaldon. All the Light We Cannot See, written by Anthony Doerr. The Casual Vacancy, written by J.K. Rowling. Dan Brown, The Lost Symbol. I have a couple of Dan Brown books. So these are the ones that I have in hardcover. So this is Inferno, written by Dan Brown. And Gone with the Wind, written by Margaret Mitchell. Okay, moving on to the next cube. I've got a couple of graphic novels. This one is Descender, written by Jeff Lemire and Dustin Nguyen. And I have Low, Volume 1, The Delirium of Hope. Vicious, written by V.E. Schwab. This is going to be the V.E. Schwab section, I guess. Vengeful, book number 2 in her Villain series. Darker Shade of Magic, book number 1 in the Darker Shade of Magic trilogy. A Gathering of Shadows, book number 2 in the trilogy. And the third book in the trilogy, A Conjuring of Light. Now we're on to the Laini Taylor section. This is Daughter of Smoke and Bone, book number 1 of this particular trilogy. Days of Blood and Starlight, and Dreams of Gods and Monsters. And here is Strange the Dreamer, book number 1 of this duology. I don't have the second one yet. We have some Michael J. Sullivan books now. Age of Myth, book number 1 of the Legends of the First Empire series. Ooh, my hand's getting tired. We have book number 2, Age of Swords. Book number 3 is called Age of War. And then this is book number 4, Age of Legend. I just hauled this. The Hate You Give, written by Angie Thomas. On the Come Up, written by Angie Thomas. The Search for Wandla, written by Tony DiTerlizzi. The Collapsing Empire, written by John Scalzi. and The Dreadful Tale of Prosper Redding, written by Alexandra Bracken. Next cube over, we've got some Leigh Bardugo on this shelf. So we have Six of Crows, book number 1 of the Six of Crows duology. Crooked Kingdom, written by Leigh Bardugo. Shadow and Bone, book number 1 of the Grisha trilogy. I was very excited to get the original covers for my birthday this year. Siege and Storm, book number 2 of the Grisha trilogy. And Ruin and Rising, book number 3 of the Grisha trilogy, written by Leigh Bardugo. Magnus Chase and the Gods of Asgard, book 1, The Sword of Summer, written by Rick Riordan. The second in the Magnus Chase series, so this is book number 2, The Hammer of Thor. One of the all-time favorites, Nevermore, The Trials of Morgan Crow, written by Jessica Townsend. And Wondersmith, The Calling of Morgan Crow. On the top, I had Sleeping Giants, written by Sylvain Neuvel. This is in paperback. I desperately want to get it in hardcover, but just haven't gotten around to it yet. We have The Emperor's Blades, written by Brian Staveley. This is book number 1 of the Chronicles of the Unhewn Throne. I had them out of order. This is The Providence of Fire, book 2. And book number 3 is called The Last Mortal Bond. This is Waking Gods, written by Sylvain Neuvel. And then I have the Comoran Strike series. So this is book number 1, The Cuckoo's Calling, written by Robert Galbraith, aka J.K. Rowling. The Silkworm, book 2. Book 3 is called The Career of Evil. And book 4, they did a cover change on me, so I'm kind of annoyed about that, but this is a Lethal White. Okay, we're on to the 6th cube now. We have Skyward, written by Brandon Sanderson. The Queen of the Tearling, written by Erica Johansson. The Invasion of the Tearling. And the final book in that trilogy, The Fate of the Tearling. This is Blood Song, book number 1 of the Raven's Shadow trilogy, written by Anthony Ryan. And we have Tower Lord, book number 2. And Queen of Fire, book number 3. This is Uprooted by Naomi Novik, and Spinning Silver by Naomi Novik. Yes, I do still have my Twilight books, so this is Twilight, written by Stephanie Meyer, New Moon, Eclipse, and of course Breaking Dawn. Then we have Autonomous, written by Annalee Newitz, Prudence, written by Gail Carriger, Imprudence, also by Gail Carriger. This is The Custard Protocol. And then I have The Lie Tree, the illustrated edition, written by Frances Hardinge, illustrated by Chris Riddell. We have a special sleeping puppy interlude. There's Luna, if you haven't met her yet. Okay, there's a lot happening on this shelf. This has the bulk of my mass market paperbacks. I still have some other ones floating around. So as you can see, Robin Hobb reigns at the first part of this section of the bookshelf. At the top, there's just some like leftover book depository bookmarks. They're everywhere. Assassin's Apprentice, book number 1 of the Farseer trilogy. Royal Assassin, book 2. And book number 3, Assassin's Quest. Ship of Magic, book number 1 of the Lie Ship Traders trilogy. They were out of order. This is Mad Ship, book number 2. And then Ship of Destiny, book number 3. This is also out of order. I don't know what I did with my mass market paperbacks. Okay, so this is The Golden Fool. This is book number 2 of the Tawny Man trilogy. And then book number 1 of this trilogy is Fool's Errand and Fool's Fate. Those are, for the most part, the only Robin Hobb mass market paperbacks I have. I actually do plan on getting this edition of the mass market paperbacks in the final trilogy, which is called the Fitz and the Fool trilogy, just because I actually do really like this cover art. I know some people don't really like to have people on their covers, but I just want all of them because this is my favorite book series. I have Inda, written by Sherwood Smith. Okay, I'm slowly working on getting this trilogy, so I don't have book number 1, but I have book number 2 of The Legend of Drizzt. This is Exile, written by R.A. Salvatore. And then I have book number 3, called Sojourn. Still trying to get book number 1. Then we have my Nora Roberts section. I guess this whole entire shelf is all out of order. So this is Blood Magic, book number 3 of the Connor O'Dwyer trilogy. Book number 2 is called Shadow Spell. And book 1 is called Dark Witch. So put them in reverse order and then you have that trilogy. This is Dance of the Gods. Book 2 of the Circle trilogy, Valley of Silence, book number 3. And then the first book of the Circle trilogy is called Morrigan's Cross. Just hauled this. This is Year 1, written by Nora Roberts. And finally, some books in order. So I have His Majesty's Dragon, book number 1 of the Temeraire series, written by Naomi Novik. Book number 2 is called Throne of Jade. And book number 3 is called Black Powder War. This is a series I'm really hoping to get into. This is called The Warded Man, written by Peter V. Brett. This is book number 1 of the Demon Cycle series. In the UK edition, it's called The Painted Man. So if you have UK version, it's The Painted Man. US version is called The Warded Man. And I also have Prince of Thorns, written by Mark Lawrence. Last row in this is Every Heart a Doorway, written by Seanan McGuire, book number 1 of the Wayward Children series. Down Among the Sticks and Bones, this is my favorite of the series. Beneath the Sugar Sky, and In an Absent Dream. I have Sabriel, written by Garth Nix. I have book 2, called Lyriel. I have Clariel, and Abhorsen, written by Garth Nix. Some more Michael J. Sullivan. This is The Crown Tower, book number 1 of the Rhaeria Chronicles. The Rose and the Thorn, book 2. The Death of Dulgath, book 3. And The Disappearance of Winter's Daughter, this is book number 4. Then I have my final 2 cubes down there. Before we do that, I have my boxed set of the Throne of Glass series. I got this off of Book Outlet, so who knows if I'll regret this choice later, but it comes with Assassin's Blade, Throne of Glass, Crown of Midnight, Heir of Fire, Queen of Shadows, Empire of Storms, Tower of Dawn, and then of course Kingdom of Ash. There's nowhere for that to go, so that just lives on the side. Okay, the first book that I have on the bottom, this is The Red Knight, written by Miles Cameron. This is book number 1 of the Traitor Sun cycle. This is the UK cover. And I also have book 2, which is called The Fell Sword. I have Leviathan Wakes, written by James S.A. Corey. I think these are the last of the Michael J. Sullivan books I have. So this is Theft of Swords, book number 1 of the Rhaeria Revelations. Book number 2 is called Rise of Empire. And book number 3 is called Heir of Novron. This is Traitor's Blade, written by Sebastian de Castell. This is book number 1 of the Greatcoat series, one of the best series that I read last year. Book number 2 is called Night's Shadow. Book number 3 is called Saint's Blood. And book number 4 is called Tyrant's Throne. I had some books tucked away back there. This is The Last Wish, written by Andrzej Sapkowski, book number 1 of the Witcher series. And book number 2 is called Sword of Destiny. This is The Wrath and the Dawn, written by Renée Audier. And The Rose and the Dagger, written by Renée Audier. This is Promise of Blood, written by Brian McClellan. This is book number 1 of the Powder Mage trilogy. And I have book number 2 called The Crimson Campaign. A Natural History of Dragons, written by Marie Brennan. The Tropic of Serpents. This is Voyage of the Basilisk. This is called In the Labyrinth of Drakes. So these are the first 4 books of the Memoirs of Lady Trent series. Then we have all 5 books of the Parasol Protectorate series. So this is book number 1 called Soulless, written by Gail Carriger. You would read this before the Custard Protocol. Book 2 is called Changeless. Book number 3 is called Blameless. Book 4 is called Heartless. And book number 5 is called Timeless. Alright, and then this is the final section of books for part 1 of my bookshelf tour. And then part 2 will be my second whole bookshelf, much the same with all the different cubes and lots of different books stacked up against one another. So here we go. I have Jade City. This is book number 1 of the Greenbone Saga, written by Fonda Lee. I have Anna Karenina, written by Leo Tolstoy, and this is in the Vintage Classics edition. I have Dr. Zhivago, written by Boris Pasternak. I have Crime and Punishment, written by Fyodor Dostoevsky. And then we have the Big Daddy. This is War and Peace, written by Leo Tolstoy. This is Norse Mythology, written by Neil Gaiman. I have The Raven Boys, written by Maggie Stiefvater, book number 1 of the Raven cycle. I have The Slow Regard of Silent Things, the short story written by Patrick Rothfuss. This is The Name of the Wind, written by Patrick Rothfuss, book number 1 of the Kingkiller Chronicle, and I have this in the UK edition right here. And book number 2, The Wise Man's Fear. I had some books tucked away back there. This is The Idiot, written by Fyodor Dostoevsky. The Curse of Chalion, written by Louis McMaster Bujold. This is Simon versus the Homo Sapiens Agenda, written by Becky Albertalli. One of my best friends, this was a book that he really connected to. I feel like this was the book that he wished that he had when he was coming out just after high school. And so then he gifted it to me because he just doesn't really hold on to books. So yeah, this was a gift from my friend. And then I have East of Eden, written by John Steinbeck. Then I have The School for Good and Evil, written by Soman Chainani. Book number 2 in the series is called A World Without Princes. Book number 3 is called The Last Ever After. And book number 4 is called The Quest for Glory. I think this might be the first book in like the Camelot years, which is after they graduate from school. Then I have the Selection series, book number 1 called The Selection, written by Kiera Cass. Book number 2, The Elite. Book number 3 called The One. And book number 4 called The Heir. One of my favorite books, The Bear and the Nightingale, written by Catherine Arden, book number 1 of the Winter Night trilogy. Red Rising, written by Pierce Brown. And the final book in this part 1 of my bookshelf tour is Golden Sun, written by Pierce Brown, book number 2 of the Red Rising trilogy. All right, thanks everyone for tuning in to my bookshelf tour. Luna's going to do the signing off for me. If you want to follow me on my Instagram and Twitter, it's at whatcassread. The same as this channel, super easy to find. And then, of course, my Goodreads link is always listed down below. You know how these videos end. What do you think, Luna? Yeah, sounds pretty good. All right, catch you later. Bye.